Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. At second reading, I spoke in support of the principle of this bill, because I believe in freedom of choice, especially at the end of life, should always rest with the individual. That is the individual with a terminal diagnosis who is best placed to decide when it is their time to slip away. As a society, we do not talk about death enough. It's one of those subjects that we shy away from. But there are thousands of our fellow citizens each year who must come to terms with terminal diagnoses, their medical treatment, and ultimately their final days. And I want to put on record my thanks to the Honourable Member for Spen Valley for the way that she's conducted this debate. And I know at times it's been particularly difficult, particularly from the criticism from outside this place. Voting for the status quo, voting against this bill, will not solve the problem. Indeed, with the advance of medical techniques that prolong life, but not necessarily the quality of life, the case for a compassionate ending to one's life will continue to grow. At least one Brit every week is taking the stressful and too often lonely journey to Switzerland for an assisted death at a cost of £12,000, an option only available to those who have the wealth to enable them to decide the time of their own death. As a supporter of this bill, I'm not giving way. As a supporter of this bill, I have listened to the debate closely, and I agree that we need better palliative care across the UK. My own grandparents were both superbly supported by amazing Macmillan nurses in their final weeks battling incurable cancers. But I recognise that this support is not universal across the country, and that more needs to be done to improve this important service. But the blunt truth of the matter is this: if you are dying from an incurable condition, you could have the best palliative care possible, but ultimately you are still dying. In her final weeks, my nan told me that it was her time to go, that she had made peace with her God, and that she didn't want to endure the next few weeks of decline in her physical and mental health. Days before her death, she was hallucinating from the high dose of medication to treat her pain, telling me vividly how she was flying a spaceship. That wasn't how she wanted to spend her final weeks, and I know that because she told me so. She, like so many others, have been denied their final wish. This legislation has received far more scrutiny than much of what we vote on in this place, and rightly so. There are 28 public bill committee meetings interviewing 40 witnesses, dividing 110 times on proposed amendments. As a country, we've been debating this subject for over 20 years, and I can recall as a 16-year-old law student discussing the case of Diane Pretty and her campaign back then to change the law. I believe the bill presented is narrowly defined, with the necessary safeguards to ensure that those with a terminal condition can freely choose the time of their own passing. There are those in this House, often through religious beliefs or otherwise, that could never support a bill of this kind. That is their right, and I respect that. But that right should not extend to denying the choice to other people. There are those who argue for what they would see as even greater safeguards, but we should remember that legislation must be balanced and workable in the real world, beyond this chamber. This bill isn't about shortening life, it is about shortening death, and I would ask all honourable members from across the House to support it today.